the Gemara in Tractate Shabbos, where the Gemara there gives the whole order of events that happened from the moment the Jews arrived at Mount Sinai, which is this Tuesday. Sorry, yeah. Rosh Chodesh is Wednesday. Tuesday night, Wednesday is Rosh Chodesh, which is why we're learning about this, Rosh Chodesh 7. From that moment to the giving of the Torah. Let's read it. So the beginning reads, we'll just read it in the English. In the third month of the Bnei Yisrael's exodus from the land of Mitzrayim, on that day they arrived in the Sinai desert. And then Vayichen Shom Yisod Negador and Yisrael, for the Jewish people, camped there before or opposite the mountain. So now the Gemara, this is a digest of what the Gemara says. You can see at the bottom of the page, the Gemara in Shabbos 86b. Let's read it. Sivan 1, Rosh Chodesh. What happened on that day? Which is the day they arrived at, that's the verse we just quoted, the day they arrived at Sinai. The day we arrived at Sinai, Moishe did not say anything at all to the Jewish people. He said nothing at all. Why? Since they were weary from the journey. In the words of the Gemara, weary from the journey. So nothing happened on Rosh Chodesh. Day 2, which will be next Thursday, Sivan 2, at dawn, Moishe ascends Mount Sinai. He brings back the following message from Hashem. Hashem says, you have seen what I've done to Egypt and how I bore you upon the wings of eagles and brought you to myself. Now, if you will obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my chosen treasure from among all the nations. For all the earth is mine. You shall be to me a kingdom of Kohanim and a holy nation. End of quote. With these words, Hashem expressed his desire that we become his chosen people. So the whole chosen people, friends, comes from this quote. It's right there in the Chumash, which was the 2nd of Sivan. And that's a very important day next Thursday. The day is accordingly marked in our calendar as Yom HaMiyuchas, the day of designation, because that's the day when Hashem communicated to the Yidden, you are my people forever from all the nations of the world. The chosen people, that's day 2 of the month of Sivan. Day 3, which will be next Friday. Hashem commands Moishe to fence in the mountain, marking the boundaries where everyone is to stand when Hashem reveals himself upon the mountain and gives them the Torah. Moishe may approach closer than Aaron, who may approach closer than the Kohanim, who may approach closer than the rest of the people. So there are different divisions. This is called Mitzvahs HaKabbalah, making the boundaries. That was the 3rd of Sivan. Day 4, 4th of Sivan, the Bnei Yisrael are told to purify and sanctify themselves in preparation for the giving of the Torah by suspending marital relations and immersing in the mikveh. That's day 4. Day 5, Moishe builds at the altar of the mountain, an altar at the foot of the mountain, and seals the covenant between Hashem and the Jewish people. And the entire people proclaim, all that Hashem commands we shall do, and we shall hear, we shall comprehend. The famous words, Na'aseh v'nishma, that was day 5. That was Erev Shavuos. The famous words, we will do, and then we will understand. Finally, day 6, the 6th of Sivan, the giving of the Torah. When morning came, there was thunder and lightning in a thick cloud upon the mountain. The voice of the shofar sounded, growing stronger and stronger. Hashem descended upon Mount Sinai and spoke the following words, saying, Anoich Hashem Elokecha, asher tzisicha me'eretz Mitzrayim. I am God, your Lord, who took you out of the land of Egypt. So that is a general, friends, description of the events that begin next Wednesday and this Shabbos, Mevarchim Sivan. We're going to bless the month, so it all is happening in essence, embryonically on this Shabbos, which is why we're learning it now. Now, my dear friends, the question of the day is this: Gewalt. Let's go back to the first day of Sivan. What happened on the first day of Sivan? Let's read it together. Moishe did not say anything to all the Jewish people since they were weary from the journey. Weary from the journey. What does this mean? When you're excited about something, the closer you get to it, the more animated you become. Now, we all know, let me explain the question. We all know that the counting between the second day of Pesach and Shavuos, which is a commandment in the Torah, it began with Jews spontaneously doing so initially when they left Mitzrayim. And Hashem loved that so much that he made it a commandment after that. And why were they counting? In great anticipation to receive the Torah. So we're getting closer and closer and closer. And then it comes, we finally arrive at Mount Sinai. Nothing. The Jews weren't clamoring, Moishe, tell us something, what do we do? How could there be? Not a word. Question becomes stronger when, without going into detail now, but just the fact, the place that they traveled from Rephidim to arrive at Sinai is a short distance. It wasn't a long distance. To make the question stronger, there are two opinions what day Rosh Chodesh was. Was it Sunday or Monday? Either way, it's coming right off Shabbos. And they were already observing Shabbos before. So they had, if Rosh Chodesh, if this day was Sunday, it was the next day from Shabbos. So they weren't exhausted. And even if it was 2 days later, exhausted. So what's going on? What's this exhaustion? Moreover, their travel in the desert was miraculous. The clouds of glory flattened out the terrain and removed all snakes and scorpions. It was a very easy traveling, protected from the burning sun, provided with all their needs. So there wasn't an exhausting journey altogether. So what could it possibly mean that Moishe says nothing and no one is saying anything? Like, tell us. That's our basic question. Now, to understand that, friends, I want you to visit the last few words on the top of the page. In translation, and Yisrael camped there before the mountain. Now, the English doesn't convey this, but the Hebrew does. Vayichen shom Yisrael neged ahar. Now, you know, there's singular and there's plural. We're talking about millions of people. Vayichen means, and he encamped. The verse should have said, Vayachanu, and they encamped. Why the singular? That's a striking question. So our sages explain, and Rashi brings it. Because they came to Mount Sinai, they were like one person. Ki ish echad believe echad, like one person with one heart. Whereas every other encampment, it was with machlekes, division. Here they were unified. Our question is this, friends. There were 42 encampments. Every encampment was full of strife. The only time they didn't argue was when they came here. What does this mean? What does it mean? The one time, still, when they came to Sinai. Otherwise, they're at each other's throats. Machlekes, what does it mean? Explanation. The other encampments, where there's machlekes, it doesn't mean a negative thing. What does it mean? On the contrary, everybody has a different perspective, a different opinion, and it's a healthy thing to discuss and debate. Come to a conclusion, each one understands his own position better. That's not a bad thing. What's the whole Gemara? It's all discussion. Shammai and Hillel. So all of the other encampments with the machlekes, the assumption has always been that like it was negative. The Rebbe says, what? Maybe there were a few times they got into, a real fight. There's a joke that they say that the Torah forbids work on Shabbos, right? And yet it singles out, of all the 39 labors, only one that there's two things singled out. It's carrying and lighting a fire. So what's lighting a fire? We can deduce that from the fact that you can't build a Mishkan. There's 39 labors. One of them is lighting a fire is a big thing. Why is it singled out? This is the joke goes. Because Shabbos, when it comes to shul, and they have time, and here the machlekes, he wants to daven for the Amud, and he said, no one has time to fight and argue, but he's busy making a living. Today, so the Torah says, don't light a fire on Shabbos. Sindish kafai ke machlekes. It's a funny thing. I remember when I used to go to the old age home here Yes, this I'm talking years ago. Blangi, Olav Hashalom, from the old country, he told me what happened in Ishtetl in Poland on Simchas Torah. So you get your Ferlach. L'chaim, and then it's a day of rest. That's where it's geharget. But not every Shabbos. Say, not every Shabbos, right? So there were times talking. So all to say that the so-called arguments that they had in the other encampments are positive and virtuous. But what happens over here? Here, there's one heart, like one man, like one heart, from Moishe Rabbeinu to the simplest Jew, and it happens when they arrive at Mount Sinai. So first of all, now we're going to revisit this, the exhaustion. You know what the exhaustion here is? I'm going to take this to two levels. The exhaustion is kindalach. Here at Sinai, we have to transcend our different opinions and unite on the level where we are all one. That's pretty exhausting. That's not easy task. That's not an easy task. But what really is happening here? Very deep idea, friends. Very deep and beautiful idea. Everybody knows that before the famous question, every idea that Hashem taught in the Torah gave in our Sinai was not unknown. The forefathers knew it. They learned it. They all sat in yeshiva. How do they know the Torah? Because they were prophets. They were people of the Spirit. And they ascended, as it were, on high, and they saw these divine truths before God formally gave them. They accessed them by ascending the heavenly realms, and they studied it. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and the whole tribe of Levi. This is not such a well-known fact. The tribe of Levi throughout the entire slavery were not slaves. They were not slaves. And they were the repositories of all these teachings, and they're the ones that kept the Jewish people's spirit alive. Now, Pharaoh deliberately did that. Just as an aside, it's an interesting thing. Why weren't they slaves? First of all, Rashi points out, clearly they weren't, because you see Moishe and Aaron coming to Aaron speaking. Why aren't they slaves like everybody else? Aaron, certainly. And Moishe grew up in the palace. It's special. Maybe you'll argue he had a special, distinction. But not Aaron, because Aaron's a Levi, and the Levim were not servants. So how did this happen? Why weren't they? Just an aside, a fascinating thing. How did the Jews become slaves? How was this done? An entire population becomes a servant population. So Paro exploited a Jewish weakness. What's our weakness? It has positive and negative. We always want to prove, wherever we live, that we're loyal, we're even more loyal than the local population. In the end, it as you see here, it only serves to bite us back. But Paro knew that. So this is what he does. He started being suspicious that they're multiplying. They're going to be a fifth column. We've got to keep them under wraps. He announces a campaign. We're beautifying Egypt. All voluntary. And the first day of the campaign, he's there with a shovel, digging with all of his ministers. The Yidden see this. We'll be the first to volunteer. So they volunteer with great enthusiasm. And Paro, so thank you. Come back tomorrow, continues. And so it continues, and the workload gets greater and greater. Before they know it, they're completely under control. The Leviim never volunteered. You want to make Mitzrayim beautiful? Just hey, stop talking. I'm not interested. And they stayed there. So Paro said, okay, if you didn't volunteer, then you didn't follow along. And he was actually happy. We could have forced them. But that, first of all, would he didn't want a war. And psychologically, he understood that if there's a segment of the population that's not going to be under this severe yoke, then they have it's not a pressure cooker that's going to foment rebellion. Psychologically, it was healthy. And on top of that, you should know there was one day the Jews had off. It wasn't 6 days a week. One day off, and they could visit all the flesh pots of Egypt, and everything was accessible. So we have this imagery of slaves, not quite in the conventional sense. They lived in their own area, that family life. They worked hard. They was like a really, rigid, and the end got very, very tough. That's true. Like servant population. But they were given valves, the pressure cooker here, there, that they should remain subdued. Why am I saying this? Okay, back to my question. So the Levim knew all these teachings passed down from Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Comes Mount Sinai, and there's a whole drama. God gives the Torah. Hello, nothing new. Nothing new. Yaakov, Tefillin, he did everything that we do, they did before. So what's the big Gewalt? What's the big Chiddush? The answer, friends, is this. Before the giving of the Torah, till then, Torah was this deep, beautiful insights, morality, spirituality, and so on. That's what it was. That's what the forefathers learned, studied, and discussed, and meditated on. There's a lot of meditation. That's why they chose to be shepherds. Didn't want to engage the world, so they could meditate on these spiritual truths. And it's profoundly intellectual and profoundly spiritual. So what could be more than that? Well, I'll tell you. What happened at Har Sinai is that all these wonderful truths, these teachings, Hashem is now going to invest himself in it in a way he never did. I, the unknowable, mysterious, beyond understanding, and all definition God. And to receive that, friends, you gotta let go. It's going to be a moment of letting go of everything that you appreciated about Judaism and Torah, that for you, that's what it was. That's how you defined it. Let go of this, because what you're getting is something beyond you. Me. Matan Torah. I'm giving you me. And you've got to make a room for me by letting go of every previous conception of what Judaism is, which is all true, but that's the external dimension. The essence of it is I. And that's the meaning of this. When they came to Mount Sinai, Moishe says nothing. There are no words now. They unite as one people. Moishe Rabbeinu unites on the same level as every Jew. Kish echad b'lev echad, one heart. Why? Because in the face of God himself, we're all equal. In terms of understanding and learning and appreciation and the value, everybody's at a different level. That's how it was till the giving of the Torah. But now we'll see that doesn't leave. We'll embrace that, bring it, reintroduce it. But what's happening now is that Yidden are connecting to the giver of Torah. And that touches the core heart. The stress here is like one person with one heart. Emphasis is one heart, because at the core of the heart of every Jew are the same. Intellectually not. Our capabilities and talents, worlds apart. Moishe Rabbeinu, great rabbis, and simple Yidden. But the heart, the pintel, is the same. And that's what Moishe is saying. Today, we have to reveal and let go of everything else, of all of our personal understandings and levels. That's why it was silent on that day. Critical silence, ready to receive the transcendent, universal, all-embracing truth in the face of which we're all equal. And that's the deeper meaning of Chul Shel Derech, which literally means we're going to weaken the journey. The journey we took to get here is weakened. And that shouldn't define us. It's like it's undone. It's undone. What am I saying in simple language? What is a big celebration of the giving of the Torah? It means this, friends. When you put on your tefillin, or you learn everyone on their level, whether we're learning just a simple story, that's a child, or a simple halacha, or a very deep Talmudic discussion, or a very deep Hasidic discourse. So intellectually, they're worlds apart. But in essence, all of us are connecting equally to the giver. The Eibishter, God, is there in those words, in that story that a child learns, or the greatest sage will learn with such nuance and depth. What's equal is Hashem is there. And that's why the halacha is, we call up someone to the Torah. You can't make a bracha in vain, friends. Can't make a bracha in vain. So here a person called up to the Torah, and he doesn't know what's even being said. How can you make a bracha? How can you make a bracha nice in our Torah? The answer is you don't understand what's being said. Because what you are hearing, what you're connecting to, is the giver, is the Eibishter himself. And the Eibishter is in these words that you are called up to, equally to the greatest scholar being brought up to, as all this understanding. True. But the Eibishter himself, that's a whole different thing. Now, friends, this parallels a marriage in many ways. Before you married your wives, so what was your relate when you were dating? The whole nature of the relationship there was what you appreciate. And it should be like that. You don't just, on faith, someone introduces you to a girl, okay, we'll get married. You're not allowed to do that. You have to go out and you have to experience, and there's a whole criteria that you learn, and you get to know each other, and all of the physical and the spiritual, whatever is important to you. That is till you date. That was the journeying till now, getting to Sinai, counting of the Omer, another level, each one of their level. It's a process. The giving of the Torah at Sinai is the marriage, the chuppah. What happens after this? From this point, your relationship radically changes. What's it now? Why you? Why you? Because of all of these reasons. As we say all the time, if the reasons continue to define the relationship because you're young, pretty, beautiful, funny, then the marriage is doomed, because there's always somebody younger and prettier and funnier. Why you now? It's beyond reason. It's meant to be. It's meant to be. That's what the chuppah that reenacts Mount Sinai, the mountain Hashem held over our head. And it's a very strange story. Hashem like forced us. You need to force us. We want to be here. What are you going to force us? Same answer. Till now we were here because it made sense to us and it's beautiful. Now it's a new level. What does force means? Even when I don't understand, but that's what it is. This is the truth. That's the meaning of the chuppah. The chuppah that Chas and Kala stand underneath is, we're being one is much bigger than our personal stories that we met and we like each other and we share in common. We like it. No, it's meant to be. It's before we were born. It's a godly, divine truth that's eternal. The chuppah that's bigger, higher than the mind. That's Hashem holding the mountain over them. Like forcing means it goes beyond your rational decision. So now we have the clear answer. So they come to Mount Sinai. The first thing is, quiet. Let go of the whole journey till now and be ready to receive something that is totally beyond. And therefore Moishe says not a word, and the people don't clamor for anything because they appreciate, they're hearing that we're coming out Mount Sinai. Is Anoichi Hashem Elokecha, God himself. So again, the takeaway is so beautiful. We have to, we're about to daven, put in the talis, the tefillin there. And there's books and libraries written about everything we're going to do, and you need to learn it. Because the next point I need to say is so important. Does that mean after the marriage, you don't have to appreciate or understand or engage? I believe you, but honey, whatever you say. No, you have to have the faith and now enjoy and experience and understand. But I enjoy and experience, understand you, because it's you. Someone has those same qualities, not interested. It isn't you. So right afterwards, there's silence as they get closer to the actual moment. As we just read, Moishe has his place. There was different boundaries. So the individuality then kicks in, and the experience and the knowledge and the understanding. But that's all based on this immutable, inviolable core bond and essence. So the marriage is about, the daily stuff is about experiencing and loving and growing and all the ups and downs of life. But the foundation is, it can't be any other way. This is you. It's beyond anything that we can even appreciate in each other. That's how deep it is. So when we're going to do a mitzvah, we are obligated to learn and understand what we're doing, each one on their level, 1,000,000 books. But the core of it has to be, Gewalt, Baruch Ata. You, with what I'm about to do, I'm connecting to the very essence of God. By this tefillin, this talis, the Shema I'm going to say, the kosher I'm going to eat. And finally, dear friends, and we appreciate this, what a mitzvah is, a connection to the very essence of God. Then we will do everything we can to see our fellow Jew has the same. And it's worth every effort in the world for one Jew to do one mitzvah. All right, friends, have a wonderful Shabbos to be continued. Be'ez Hashem next week.